Hey guys, Nick here. I'm going to go ahead and just state the obvious. This is a marketing tool for my real estate business. I've been a realtor for 20 years right here in Nashville. But who wants to listen to a boring podcast about real estate? Good news, it's not. This is a podcast about people that I've built relationships with since I moved here in 1988. If what I stand for resonates with you and you're looking to buy or sell a home in this area, let's talk. No pressure, just a conversation, kind of like this podcast.
This is the 615 Podcast with your host, veteran realtor and entrepreneur, Nick Woodard.
All right, guys, today I have someone who has been a staple in my life for going on probably 25 years now. He was my first quote-unquote boss. Now he sits on the board of directors for an organization called In His Grip, which uses the platform of golf to encourage and equip men in putting God first in their life, family, and business. He's the owner of the In His Grip Pro-Am at Pebble Beach. He's a PGA Golf Professional and my great friend, Brian Jorgenson. What's up, buddy?
What's happening?
Thanks for coming.
No, man, thanks for having me on.
Well, we had you on, I guess it was 4 years ago when I was shooting the podcast by myself. We were sitting in your kitchen, terrible audio, all the things. However, I had probably 24 people reach out to me saying they absolutely loved your story.
Well, that's great. That's why we tell it, right? We all have a story and people want to hear it.
So I wanted to get you back now that I got producer Jim actually doing it legit for us.
Yeah, this is pretty cool setup right here. A little better than my kitchen.
So I wanted to start first off with, the story. You're my first employer. I was 16. I grew up in Carriage Hills right there off Wilson Pike, and Nashville Golf and Athletic was right over the tree line. I would sneak in there and fish because I'm obsessed with fishing, and you probably kicked me off, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 dozen times. And then I needed a job that was close to town. So I was like, maybe I'll go see my good buddy Brian and see if I can get a job here. So I appreciate the employment.
Well, I felt like you worked there anyway. You spent enough time there, probably more than most of the employees at that time.
Man, that was one of the coolest jobs I ever had. I mean, you got to fish every day after work, got to meet so many people. I really feel like I learned some social interaction life skills there. Yeah. Remember meeting, let me see my list. You had Charlie Pride, Jerry Reed, Vince Gill, Peyton Manning, Marty Rowe from Diamond Rio, all those guys.
Yeah, it's a great place. A lot of people, back in the day, right? It was like an enclave. It was back in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when it opened in 79. I mean, I can't imagine. Cool Springs wasn't even really happening.
I mean, could you imagine what that, you may know what that property is worth now. I mean, it's got to be astronomical.
Yeah, because no floodplain and beautiful. And it's actually that property and an adjacent property that butts up to the Smith Farm.
Yeah,
it's a big footprint. It's over 400 acres right in the middle of Williamson County. So not that it'll ever go for sale. You know, Madison and the family, they're pretty dug into golf. And if he wanted to sell it, right, he could have already. So yeah. It shows where their intentions are, and they're going to stay steadfast to golf and providing a great place for a lot of people.
Well, when you were the pro over there, you had a lot of really good relationships with your members, and I kind of wanted you to tell the story about Marty Rowe with Diamond Rio. You had a deep connection with him, and why don't you tell the story about how he changed your life?
Yeah, Marty he's a great buddy, still a great buddy, but as you know, we would Monday Night Football at Marty's and by the fire pit with a bunch of great guys on the same street that the club's on. But, Marty was just a dear friend. And when my son was born, he was born at 1 pound, 9 ounces, at 24 and a half weeks. And it put everybody on high alert because, little con man wasn't supposed to make it. And he needed a blood transfusion, one of many early on within the first, call it 8 weeks of life. And we just put it out there. If there's anybody that's this, I can't remember what type it was, but I put it out there to some friends, and Marty's like, hey, that's my blood type. Where do I need to be and when do I need to be there? And this was at the height of Diamond Rio, right? Yeah. This is back in 2000 and, or 2001. and he just went down and multiple.
So he's probably touring and everything, and just
multiple donations, right? So they completely took the blood out of my son and put Marty's blood, back in there, it's just amazing that
did Connor get any incredible talents that maybe you didn't think he would have? No, can he pick up the guitar?
He has a hankering for Miller Lite. I could say that. Pretty funny.
Well, I basically wanted to have you on here to tell your story. You've had 3 or 4, I don't want to say milestones, but major events in your life that have completely changed the trajectory of your life. And this will all kind of make sense as we wrap it all together at the end, and you'll kind of see how this unfolds. But first, I want to talk about how a little girl's note changed your life forever.
That's I just told that story a couple days ago, and it's unreal. But that little girl is now 23 and living back at the house. She just graduated from college early, 3.5 years. So really proud of Riley, but back.
So hard to believe she's wrapping it up.
I know.
I mean, jeez.
But back when she was 15, she went, matter of fact, when she was 14, she went to a little Christian outreach called JH Ranch, which is based in California, but they did an outreach here in Nashville. And a couple of my buddies were involved. So it was a father-daughter outreach. And my little 14-year-old didn't want to go with her dad. She decided to go with her mom. So 50 father-daughters and 1 mother-daughter at a daughter-daddy outreach. Anyway, very hurt. She had reasons why she didn't want to go with me, and there were many reasons. Which, while she was there, she had an opportunity to write a letter to 2 people, and I was one of the 2 people that she wrote a letter to. And the letter was supposed to be to somebody who was very influential in your life, and somebody that you needed to tell them your feelings and what you thought of them. So there we go. That was the start of the letter. So she wrote that letter in November, and she didn't hand it to me. She put it on my pillow on January 14th of 2018. Riley at that point was 15, and tough letter for dad to give. But anyway, I'm in the shower. I come out. There's a note on my pillow. It says dad on it. I'm like, wow. Riley's the only one home. She slid this note on my pillow, and I'm kind of excited. I get this note, and I open it up, and man, I start reading it. The first paragraph kind of build me up as a dad. I think it's going to be all I love yous. But second paragraph, man, she launched into me pretty heavy on who I needed to be for her and Connor, my son, and who I needed to be for their mom, my wife, Patricia. And man, it hit every nerve in my body. And I guess I could have done a lot of things at that moment. I could have probably been mad. I could have gone upstairs and just tore her up and told her that she has no right to do that. I'm a grown man and you're just a kid. I could have pretended like I didn't read it, and we could have gone about our business. But man, that letter dropped me to my knees in a way that I've never been. I've never felt anything like that before in my life. So I'm on the side of my bed where I sleep on my knees, just weeping, crying, praying to God, which I hadn't done in a long time, unfortunately, or I may not have been in that situation. But I read that letter. I got on my knees. I felt a presence that I had never felt in my life. Cried really hard, got up, felt super light. Like, what just happened? I mean, I had an outer body experience. Then I walk up those stairs. Her room's right at the top of the steps, and she's just laying there with her arms wide open. She says, "Come on, Dad, let's snuggle." I mean, I jumped in there and we snuggled. We prayed. I remember it was snowing a little bit outside. Her mom was traveling. She was on the road for her job, and it was just me, Riley. I don't know where Connor was, but he went around. And I told her, I said, "That guy's gone, Riley. You're not going to see him anymore. He's in the past. And let's start a new life right now." And that was January 14th of 2018. I got counseling. I got help. I got into the Bible. I learned about my faith again. I grew up Catholic. That wasn't good for me. For some reason, I needed a direct line to God. I didn't know how to do that. So I got people in my life that knew how to guide me in that direction. And I changed my friend group. I got some different people in my life. So
what was your major struggle? What was causing that separation? Was it just head down grinding, not present as a father? I mean, I've heard this story before, so I know the outcome and the very cool ending to this whole story, but kind of what was the transformation that needed to happen?
Yeah, golf pro, right? 30 years as a golf pro. That was my lifestyle. It was all about Brian. It was I spelled team with an I, right? I did everything on my own. I didn't need anybody else, but I didn't pay enough attention to my family. I was always there, but I don't think I was omnipresent. I always had other things in the back of my mind. And then alcohol, was definitely abusing alcohol. That was my go-to, maybe to get away from some of the things that my wife had called me out on numerous times, or the kids never did until that letter, right? They kept it pretty quiet. But Patricia, she definitely would call me out on it, and I would get good for a little while, and it would be an ultimatum. And I would clean myself up, and I'd be good for 2 or 3 weeks. And then boom, I'm back in the, hanging out in the wrong places and doing the wrong things. And that always led to not being present. I mean, I was home,
right?
But whether or not I was 100% or not, that was kind of my life.
We all struggle with that, but to a point to have a young girl to have the courage to speak up to her father like that, ultimately changed your life. And knowing you as long as I have, it wasn't just a short-term, change. This is a literal life-changing event.
Correct. 100%. 100%.
So things in the family improve. We get to a point where the next part of this story happens, unfortunately, but why don't you go ahead and piece that together?
Yeah. So, we'll call it God intervening in my life through my daughter to prepare me for what was getting ready to happen a short time later, 8 months later. So on August 26th of that same year, I'm at home, kind of same thing. It's around 7:00, and I get a knock on the door. My wife's traveling. Hadn't talked to her in a little while. We texted a little bit. Riley was dating she had a boyfriend that she had just kind of met. He was over the house. And I was texting Patricia like, hey, okay, guy, handshake was weird, blah, 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 just having fun. And I'm not getting any responses, which is, she was in the car. She was traveling. I didn't expect a text back at that moment. So kind of let that go. I'm hanging out in the house, and I get this knock on the door, and as I'm walking to the door, I see, you can't really see out my door. It's kind of opaque. I can see figures, but I can't really see anybody clearly, but there's a lot of people, like 7. And as I get closer, I notice that they're policemen, and they all have their hats over their hearts. Ooh, man. Yeah. When I go back there, it's just, I can be there. I can be in the present in that moment.
Something you never forget.
No,
never get
it's,
over.
Man, it's a sight that, and I go back to, if they're injured, the phone rings and you have to go to the hospital. But when they pass away, that's the entourage that I got. I got 6 state policemen. I'm sorry, 5, 2 Brentwood police who I knew, and then a chaplain who I also knew. And man, just the feeling and the speechless, right? I didn't know what to do. Of course, the kids were home. There was this other person in the house, which I don't even know what happened to him. He just vanished. I think his mom came to pick him up, but this is the amazing part. You've been to my house. We could go a lot of different places, right? We have the living room, we have the kitchen, we have ample room where these now 7 people could have taken me. But how did they know to make a left and go into my bedroom and have me and the kids on the same side of the bed that 8 months earlier, I gave my life to Christ?
Wow.
So
I didn't know that part of the story.
So that's the powerful part. So I've got Connor and Riley. I got Connor on my left. I got Riley on my right, and they're delivering the news. Car accident. She was killed instantly. Didn't suffer. This, that, and the other. So we're getting the news as we're together as a family. But I knew how much more powerful that spot I was in meant in that moment of I'm getting clarity, because I've been now sober. I've been doing all the work for 8 months to prepare me for this devastating news that I'm receiving about my family that wasn't in the plans, right?
Right.
We had plans to retire together and travel, and we just had a in our minds, right? We had the life planned out. God had other intentions, and Patricia was taken away from us. I say we lost our rock star mom, and I lost my my best friend, right? She was the reason and responsible for, she stayed with me through that period of time, got me healthy, and we were on a good track to living a great life together. So you had what we can only say is redemption, and you got to experience the best of your family and marriage for that period of time before it happened. I did. Yeah. That 8 months were just amazing, because what I did for 8 months, and this is through my counselor, I wrote Patricia a letter every day for 8 months. And I just told her how much, I loved her and how much she meant to me and how much I appreciated her. And I think during our relationship or marriage, it just got taken for granted, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you just don't tell them enough what that person means in your life. And when you are faced with a note from your daughter who wakes you up in the amount of appreciation you have for life, number one, and then two, kind of a second chance, right? I had a lot of chances.
Right.
This was it, right? I'm going to make the best of this one. So it's one of those turning points in your life that you can make a decision, right? You can either fall apart, or you can pick yourself up and move ahead.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's where I was.
So from that point on, you're now a single father raising kids. They're older now. They've gone through college, done all that. So, I obviously know the story. We're going to have to skip a whole lot of this because we'd be here all day long, but, you being a golf pro, tell us the next story of you acquiring the Pebble Beach tournament, and then the next one will be the In His Grip ministry. Which one came first? What were you introduced to first? Yeah, so Patricia passed away on a Sunday. I've always known In His Grip, and I've always known the founder, Scott Lehman. He was a friend of mine, a friend that I kept at arm's length. Sure, right. I never let Scott into my life because I didn't want Scott to know who Brian was. Yeah. I mean, he knew me from a distance, but I wasn't going to let him in. Well, who shows up first Monday morning at about 8:00 at my door? Scott Lehman, right? My house is full of people, as you can imagine. And, it's the night, it's the morning after this incredible event happened. And so he shows up the next day, Monday. And I've known Scott for 10 years, right, at a distance. We've never gone heart level. We've never done anything because I didn't want to let him in. Right. I mean, it was all me. Scott wanted in. Right. Like we talked about in Bible study this morning, right? I wasn't willing to open that door. Absolutely. Kept that door shut for a long time. And when we locked eyes and we saw each other, it was just immediate, both of us weeping and holding each other. And I just felt a connection to a brother that I just hadn't felt in a long time. I had a lot of people, of course, at my house, and it was anarchy and crazy, but wow, what a connection I got to Scott Lehman. And then I was already in negotiations to buy this event at Pebble when Patricia passed away. And she passed away in August. I got a call in October that I wasn't the highest bidder, and that I love this story. I love this story. That was my news, right? Dick was about 80 at the time. Anyway, he called me and said, "Hey, Brian, I'm so sorry about Patricia, and
this, that, and the other. And I just want to touch base with you about the event. I know if you want to talk about it. I said, yeah, Dick, I definitely want to talk about it. He goes, I just want to let you know you weren't the highest bidder. And immediately I wanted to rebid. I wanted another opportunity. So I'm trying to negotiate my position. And Dick goes, hey man, let me finish. I'm just spewing a bunch of stuff that I really want the event. My intentions for the event, Dick knew. I was going to turn it into a Christian event, and I was going to glorify God out on the peninsula within his grip. So In His Grip came first, and then the tournament came as a.
But you're still very new to opening up to this. You probably knew of In His Grip, but you're now 6 months sober. This just happens.
Yep, I'm into it, and at that moment, of course I loved golf, but I was gaining a love for Christ. I was there, right? I mean, I had done all the work with a Christian counselor. So, he had really framed God in an amazing way for me to understand what just happened and how I can glorify the Lord through tragedy, right? And, man, I just said, I said, Dick, man, I'm sorry. I mean, is there anything I can do? He goes, well, Brian, hang on. He goes, I just wanted to let you know that I love what you're going to do, and it's yours if you want it. And I just can't wait to see what God has in store for you, right? And this is, if you guys know anything about Pebble Beach, you just don't go to Pebble Beach and start an event like this, right? It's kind of like...
Yeah, he had it, 40 years or something
40,
before?
Yeah, he had it for 40 years. So think about that. It's just amazing. So I basically bought his event. I got, great pricing. I got great relationships, and I had played in it for 25 years.
Okay.
So I had a very good relationship with not only Dick, but Pebble. It's kind of a great place. And even the more irony of this was it was always over Patricia's birthday. Mm-hmm. So her birthday was December 2nd, and that's right about where the event was. Sometimes it fell on her birthday, sometimes it didn't, but I was always traveling, right? So before she passed away, probably 2 years, we took the family out, and she had never been to Pebble. The kids had never been to Pebble. And so we spent the day at Pebble, and while we were sitting on the lawn by 18, the green, we were laying on the grass, looking up at the sky, and she goes, I could see why you come out here every year. So, man, I had a great blessing to keep doing it. And then when I started negotiating the deal, she was behind it. She was like, if this is what you want to do, you need to go ahead and do it. So anyway, fast forward, it was called the World Pro-Am, which is what I bought. I bought the World Pro-Am LLC, and I turned it into the In His Grip World Pro-Am. So just to fast forward, we're going on year 7. Year 6 will be this year. We started with, Dick had 12 teams back in, call it 2018, 12 teams. First year, I bumped it to 25. So fast forward, this year we'll host 50 teams and 200 players with about 100 wives. So I'll have close to 300 people on property for an event that was somewhat dying on the vine, but we repurposed it, repackaged it. And, my thing was, I'm going to do something a little different. And in the handoff, when Dick handed the event over, I said, hey guys, I'm going to do something a little different. Most events don't do. I said, we're going to have a sunrise service on that 18th green, and that's going to start the event. And we're going to fellowship.
A lot of people don't know that's a very iconic hole, very well known.
But yeah, incredibly well known. Probably one of the most, next to 7, probably the most well-known hole on the golf course. So I said that speaking out of school, right? I didn't have permission to do this, right? I'm now speaking it into speaking it into reality, but I didn't have permission. So I'm getting some pushback from Pebble on what I want to do with this event. And it took about 6 months to get to the right people to be able to okay what I wanted to do, which is a religious service in California.
Little red tape.
Yeah, there's a little something that has to go on there. Now we're 300 We're 200 plus people on the 18th green Sunday morning of the event.
It's incredible.
Having an amazing message to glorify the Lord in California at Pebble Beach, with now the staff is coming out. Now guests are coming to the service that don't even know about it. They're just walking down the stairs and being part of it. So it's just growing into this amazing thing. And I probably have another 40 teams on the wait list that want to play in this event. So it's just blown up, and it's all because there's a purpose. And I just let God lead the way. This has nothing to do with Brian.
So let's talk about in his grip. So for some of you that may not know what that is, won't you explain what the organization does and kind of what your goal is? Because this thing has grown substantially since you came on. And so from the outside looking in, it's so amazing for me to see something that transformed your life. Now you are in the middle of transforming men's lives all over the country, if not the world. Like we just went to Bible study this morning at the Grove, and just the people that show up with such vigor to be there.
Yeah.
It's almost like every guy in that room wouldn't miss it.
Yeah, that place has become pretty special. Well, so, we kind of, after Patricia passed away, and again, I connected with Scott, the ministry repurposed in his grip from a specific golf ministry where they only do events, tournaments, to a ministry that we're going to take the word of God to golf courses. We're going to use the golf course as our grounds to attract men to come, because we're going to take it to where they are. If you're a member of a club,
right,
you spend a lot of time there. I mean, it's your hangout, right? So we're bringing that right to them rather than them having to come to us. So we started it at Nashville Golf, right? So the week after Patricia passes away, I'm with Scott and I said, hey, we need something at Nashville Golf for my members, because again, I've been there 20 plus years. It's a big family. I said, we're going to need something. I don't know what we need, but we're going to need something at the club that these people can come to and understand that everything's okay. Brian's going to be fine, and we're going to get these people together, and we're going to Bible, we're going to grip the word. And Scott came up with the grip, right? Mm-hmm. Grip. G is God's word. The R is the reveal. The I is the implementation, and then the P is the praying it out. So grip golf, right? You could relate that to hockey, fishing. Yeah. All these things have a grip. Really cool way to present the word, and very easy for us men, to understand. And man, it just took off. Like we had 30, 40 people coming. It was amazing. And we're like, why can't we can do this? This is wash, rinse, and repeat, right? Yeah. We can do this anywhere. So finally people started raising their hands and going, hey, I want to bring this to my club. I want this at the Bridge. I want this at the Grove. I want this at Chenal and Arkansas. I mean, we're all over the Southeast with about 30 plus clubs all participating in gripping the word. And the ministry has just exponentially grown, and we're still in that mode. We're still in the growth mode. I mean, there's a lot going on. We have 2 Zoom calls on Wednesday night that guys from all over the world participate in. We got Australia and Puerto Rico and all these great places that they're calling in on this Zoom and getting the grip. And it's changing people. It's changing men's lives. And when you change the man's life, you change the family's life. That.
Well, it's crazy. True. Yeah. The blueprint of this, your story's a perfect blueprint, because you were, good time, Brian, the golf pro, probably was, not doing, you were hanging out with people, having a good time, and then God changed your heart. Now you're using that exact same platform to scale that exponentially to reach more men.
Yeah, it was amazing when I decided to change my life, how many people came along with me. That was I thought being a golf pro and not being the fun Brian was going to hurt my business or hurt my reputation of taking these members on these crazy trips and having these crazy times. But let me tell you what it did. It solidified relationships with these people that I didn't know even existed. They really didn't want the fun Brian.
Yeah.
They wanted somebody in their lives that they could do life together with.
But as men, we tend to put that wall up, and we're not willing to let people see the true us.
We call it, you're on an island. Us men are just on an island, and we're like, you know what? We can do it. I got it. If you ask Nick, hey, Brian, how you doing? Man, Nick, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I'm doing fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, Brian, can we call, let's call Patricia and see how you're doing. Let's just get her on the phone. I'd love to ask her a couple questions. If everything's fine, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, right? Everything's fine for Brian to Nick because we're dudes, right? And we're just kind of, we're just getting along, and we're buddies. But when you peel back the onion a little bit and you start digging out some layers, it's not so rosy, on the inside. There's another story there.
That's what this organization has done. You just seeing it this morning, you have some very powerful, successful men that are all getting together that are just showing vulnerability in each other and confiding in each other, having that support that, most men may not be willing to show to everybody else.
Yeah. And just think this week we had 30 of those going on, right? I mean, I was at one on Wednesday and one on Friday, and we just launched Thursday. We launched 2 in Destin. So one in Niceville and one in Destin. So, I mean, they're just, guys are raising their hand who have been involved within his grip and saying, you know what, man, I'm here. Yeah. Come on. I want to bring this to my club. And what we do is they're just facilitators. They don't have to, it's not teaching. The Bible does the work for you. You saw this morning, the guys in those rooms who they just want to talk about it because it means something different to everybody because of the season of life you're in. I'm getting ready to be 55. I'm in a different season than the 72-year-old, right?
There's vast amounts of wisdom that I picked up this morning. You could see the different age groups had, different life experiences and different things they've gone to, but they all came together and were encouraging, those younger and older, but everybody had a different, you could look at one Bible verse and everybody interpreted it maybe a little bit differently to coincide with their life experience. Yeah.
And the great thing is, if you've ever been in a situation where they've laid hands on you and they've prayed for you, and we do that a lot in those groups, right? When times are tough and things are coming at you rapidly, you put somebody in the middle of that room and you put them in a chair and you pray for them individually and you lay hands on them. It's life-changing. I've had it done for me quite a few times, and it is, every time it happens, it's life-changing.
I mean, you guys did that for me a few years ago when I was going through some things. And wow, it's powerful. Very, very powerful.
It's very powerful.
You hear people say, I'm praying for you, and in the South, lifting you up, and you're like, okay, great, thank you, I appreciate that. But when you're sitting in a chair in the middle of the room and 40 guys are laying, hands on your shoulder, praying to the creator of the universe. So it's extremely powerful.
Yeah. There's a lot of power in prayer, but there's a lot of power in prayer with people where 2 or more come together. Right? We're 40 or more coming together in these rooms, and it's just, it's powerful. And we see it, for me, the first time I really got a good snapshot of what that looked like was, Patricia passed away in August. In November, I did an event at Nashville Golf, and I think I invited 100 people and 130 people showed up. So 30 people who weren't really invited just came, right? So we had a packed room, and I was up front with Scott, and first time I really told my story, my testimony, right? So I was very transparent in my before accepting Christ into my life again, and then after. It was life-changing. I mean, so many people in that room came along on this journey, and they're the guys right now that are Bible studying, right? The people that were in that room, and they heard me, Brett Kern, our long snapper, who I just can't remember his name. Anyway, we had some football, and myself. I closed it out, but I closed it out with the story is it's never too late, right? It's never, the age is nothing. You could be 65, give your life to the Lord and change the world, especially your world. So I just living life with a little bit more intention and doing things with purpose give you such a great feeling about that the after you pass, right? I want, and my whole thing is I know I'm going to see Patricia again, and I just want well done, good and faithful servant, Brian, you could have folded it up, you could have cashed it in, and you could have been the worst dad, the worst friend, the worst anything, because you could have, right? That was a decision I could have made. But I say, if I didn't have Christ in my life and I wasn't this person, I would have been the guy to walk in the woods and not come out, right? We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Those were thoughts because of the guilt and the shame I would have had having to parent my children with not getting it correct before Patricia passed away. I think the guilt of what I would have sent her to heaven with would have been a little much for me to handle. So
to think you would have missed all of this.
Oof, man,
you would have missed just the impact that, yes, you know, I'm going to go ahead and brag on you. Like, you're a huge part of this. Yes, you're just one person in, you know, in the group of spreading this, but your testimony alone has changed hundreds of lives.
Well, I'd like to think so. You know, telling the story is the hard part.
Absolutely.
We all have one, you know, and I think you bring people to Christ by telling your story. We found out in the ministry that testimonies are incredibly powerful, and we want as many as we can. Yeah. We want to get those testimonies out to people so and it's relatable. What I'm talking about is very relatable to so many people. How many guys out there are not doing the best job they can in their family? How many guys are abusing alcohol? How many guys are addicted to porn? How many? You can go down the list of things that are causing harm to families and people because they're not Christ-centered and they're not doing it a little different, right? It's about awareness.
I remember when we did the podcast 4 years ago, I very specifically said, God's not done with you. He's only getting started. And boy, was I right.
Well, it's people like you that drive me, right? I mean, that's a driving factor behind what I feel like my life is meant for. And it's meant for purpose. All right. I'm retired. I don't have a whole lot going on. Man,
right.
You're
retired, but you got a lot going on.
I'm available is what I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? My daughter's home. I mean, we go on walks every day. We go do this, we go do that, we go to dinner, we go to basketball games. I mean, we're just, if I were working and I had other things going on, I'm going to miss this time, right? My son lives here in Franklin. I can see him anytime I want. You know, if I had other things happening, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that opportunity.
I'll be the first to admit, I very much struggle with that. You've kind of been a big brother to me for years. So you've seen, you know, me go through things, and you're one of the first people that I come to when I do. But I will openly admit I struggle with the balance of providing and being present. It's very much a balancing act. Some days I'm great, some days I'm not. Me and Catherine just had a conversation yesterday about, you know, when I'm home, I need to be present. I'm always forward thinking, you know, business, relationships, all that, you know, what can I be doing right now to provide for them later? And, you know, I kind of miss a little bit of what's going on right now. And I think you have to check yourself regularly and kind of come back to center and go, okay, what's most important here?
Yeah. The balancing life out is so tough, you know, and you know, if anybody's listening and knows anything about a golf pro's life, I mean, sun up to sundown. I mean, that's kind of our job. I mean, that's what we do. I had the opportunity to write my own schedule. I could have come and gone as I pleased, and my owners gave me that opportunity. It was the selfish Brian who decided not to spend that time with the family and not be omnipresent, right? So I didn't have it right for a lot of years, but you know, God provided me with a life that I can have it right now. And like I said, it's never too late, right? Yeah. My kids are going to remember Brian as before, right? But I really think the Brian after is going to be incredibly impactful. And this year at Pebble, Riley's going to do the 18th green service.
That's fantastic.
So the girl who wrote the letter has finally graduated and can come because that's been usually finals for her. So she's going to come and she's going to deliver that message in front of our biggest crowd ever right there at Pebble.
Your story just has so much symbolism in it, just sprinkled out.
Well, you hear her tell the story, it's gonna be life changing. Because it's one thing for me to tell it, but it's another thing to hear it through a 22-year-old's eyes and heart. And she's very purpose driven, in telling that story and why she wrote that letter. Right. So I just feel, I feel blessed to have another chance. Unfortunately, I'm a single dad. I've got an awesome girlfriend that, man, keeps me accountable and in check. And she's just a great Christian woman.
For her to step right in, you know, with all of this going on, like that shows her strength as well. Cause not many women can do that.
No. Tammy's been through a lot with our family and she continues to be there as a, definitely, my partner, and we're a team, and, you know, we kind of do it together. You know, she was brought to me by God through a mutual friend. And, I just look at it as God gave me another opportunity to, you know, love somebody, to, put my feelings out there, and to have a partner in life that, we've got a lot of the same values. And, she's very Christian. She loves doing her morning tea time, and, she's just great for me. You know, she's perfect. So
after everything you've been through, when it's your time to go, what is the legacy that you're going to want to leave behind?
That's a good one. Well, two children that I could have abandoned. I mean, I think they're my legacy. Like your children would be yours. I want them. And I say this all the time. I was at a wedding recently, and it was a second wedding for a buddy of mine, and his kids got up and they delivered 2 amazing speeches about their dad. Right. And this guy's top shelf. And I just wept. I actually had to get up, and I went to the back, and I just cried. And I'm like, you know what? When I die, I want my children to stand up there, and I want them to tell the story of who their dad was to them. And I want it to be that impactful for everybody that's there. I don't want it to.
And the only way for that to happen is the raw truth.
You got to live it out, brother.
You got to have the entire, from start to finish, the raw truth of who you were then and now, and everything in between.
Yes, I think the legacy is in my kiddos. You know, I have a lot of love for them, and as a single dad, right, for the last little while. I mean, you're experiencing all these things without their mom. Yeah, it's tough. You know, Tammy's not their mom. She'll never be their mom. So it's me. And you know, we got through some graduations, we got through some big milestone birthdays. You know, now we're into the next phase, right? Somebody's going to get married, somebody's going to have kiddos, and you know, I'm going to be there for all that, you know, the good Lord willing, and I'm going to be omnipresent. I want to be a great grandpa. I want to be a great, hopefully, best man in my son's wedding. I want to be a great confidant to my daughter when she gets married. I want to be there for her in whatever she needs. So again, if you're looking for things, I'm looking for relationships. I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm the relationship guy. Yeah. I'm the connector. And I've connected my children to Christ. Myself and Tammy are connected to Christ, and I'm bringing a lot of people into that world of connecting them, opening the door, like we said this morning. Mm-hmm. We're just opening the door to Christ. That's all. When He's knocking, man, I'm opening. Yeah, and hoping to plant some seeds out there and some other men to do the same thing.
And still crazy to think all this started because one little girl at the time had the courage to tell her father some hard truth that she felt he needed to hear. And from that point on, just completely changed the trajectory of your life.
Yeah. Well, you know, looking at from her side, I don't know if she thought about the downside to that, where I could have excommunicated her from the family at that point. Man, she could have been I could have had a different relationship with her from that moment on. Yeah. But man, it brought us together. Mm-hmm. She's my baby.
Well, brother, always like to ask kind of towards the end here, a little bit about here, where we live. You've lived in many places. You've traveled all over the world, but you call Middle Tennessee home. What is it you love the most about Middle Tennessee?
Man, the people. I love the people. The people are great. They're, you know, I've a chance in my work to just meet a lot of people, you know, thousands and thousands of people a year. You know, members would bring guests from all over the country, and, you know, they would say, I love this place. This place is great. And we're seeing it, right? People are moving here in the droves from everywhere. So we are growing. They could have gone anywhere. these people, they didn't need to come to Middle Tennessee or Nashville per se, but it's a great place. Awesome place to live. I mean, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. That's why I've stuck around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Well, brother, you're fighting the good fight, man. Things could have completely gone in a completely different direction. But like we talked about in Bible study this morning, God spoke, knocked on the door, you answered, and you were willing to look at the truth right in the face. And
God spoke. It was a 15-year-old girl he was speaking through, and I decided to answer the call, right?
Well, man, we're completely proud of you. Again, I've known you all my adult life. You've always been someone I've looked up to that has been there for me in my time. It was heartbreaking seeing you go through everything you did at the time, but now on the backside, just seeing what God has revealed and built from those experiences, that there's no other way to explain it other than he literally laid out the map in front of you and you can see it.
Yeah. Well, God is good, even through tragedy.
Amen.
You have to praise him and give him all the glory and thanks. So if everybody can say, hey, Brian did this and Brian did that. I'll be the first one to say, no, I mean, Brian was there.
Yep.
But, when you trust in the Lord, like our life verse, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, when, trust is everything. And I wear it on my wrist. I have one side that says trust and the other side says joy. So when you trust in the Lord and give everything to him, you can have true joy.
Yeah.
Happiness is eating a steak, like Nick Saban, or like Notre Dame coach would say. It's here and gone, right? But joy sticks around for a long time. So if you can create joy in your life through Christ and having a great relationship with him first, that's our early morning tea time. You get up and you get after it, and it just sets the tone for the day and the life.
Yeah.
So
y'all are doing amazing things, man. I'm so glad to have been invited today and to see it firsthand. Y'all really are doing amazing things, and like I say, iron sharpens iron, and
one man sharpens another.
Yeah, you're just in a room with a bunch of some powerful, some successful, some all over the board, but just to see them all humble themselves before God and lean on each other is a sight to see.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're welcome anytime. We're there every Friday morning.
So I always want to send people with a thank you gift.
Yeah.
So you have your own 615 hat to rock out there.
I will wear it proudly. I love what you're doing too, man. I love your content. I love your attitude. I love your giving thanks to the Lord. You don't hide behind being a realtor. You hide behind, you're a Christian first. So that's awesome. I think that's one of the reasons why you're so successful.
Ah, man, I appreciate that, man. I had some people to look up to like yourself, man. You're an inspiration for a lot of people, even if you don't necessarily know it. So,
yeah, thanks, brother.
All right, man. Thanks for coming, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.